the world has enough wealth and resources to ensure that the entire human race enjoys a decent standard of living. Yet many people in the world continue to live in abject poverty. The majority of the countries with the poorest people in the world face significant challenges like conflict, corruption, and natural disasters which end economic growth and development. In today's video, therefore, we are going to cover the top 10 poorest countries in the world according to GDP per capita. GDP per capita measures the economic output per person, as opposed to GDP, which measures the overall economic output of a country. Yemen. GDP per capita $1,996. Yemen is one of the poorest countries in the world due to a combination of factors such as ongoing conflict, political instability, high levels of corruption, limited access to basic services like education and healthcare, lack of infrastructure development, and a struggling economy. The ongoing civil war in Yemen, which began in 2014, has further exacerbated the country's poverty levels by destroying infrastructure, disrupting essential services, and causing widespread displacement of people. The conflict has led to human crisis, with millions of Yemens facing food insecurity, malnutrition, and limited access to clean water and sanitation. Madagascar. GDP per capita $1,979. Though Madagascar is an island nation widely renowned for its unique natural beauty and biodiversity, the country faces major economic challenges. Its over-reliance on agriculture, especially vanilla exports, makes it highly vulnerable to external shocks and natural disasters. Cyclones and droughts frequently disrupt food production and livelihoods, exacerbated poverty and food insecurity across rural communities. Political instability has also hampered Madagascar's development, creating an environment of uncertainty that discourages investment and limits progress. Infrastructure deficits further isolates the nation, reducing trade opportunities and impeding the growth of critical sectors such as manufacturing and transportation. Liberia. GDP per capita $1,882. Liberia experienced two brutal civil wars from 1989 to 2003, which had a devastating impact on the country's infrastructure, economy, and social fabric. The war resulted in widespread destruction, loss of lives, displacement of people, and significant setbacks in economic development. Liberia has grappled with issues of weak governance, institutional corruption, and lack of transparency in government process. Limited access to healthcare and education and unemployment are other problems faced by many Liberians. Many Liberians depend on agriculture as their main economic activity. However, the agricultural sector is characterized by low productivity, limited access to modern techniques and technologies, and vulnerability to natural disasters such as droughts and floods. Malawi. GDP per capita $1,712. Malawi, a landlocked country in southeastern Africa, heavily depends on agriculture as its main economic activity. However, the country experiences prolonged droughts that negatively impact agricultural production. The government aims to diversify agricultural activities and promote small-scale industries to drive economic growth. Malawian has made strides in improving access to education and healthcare. Community-based initiatives and international partnership have helped to build resilience and improve living conditions. Niger. GDP per capita $1,675. Niger, a country in the Sahara region, faces several economic challenges, including desertification and limited industrialization, with most of its population relying on farming. The country's economy is highly vulnerable to climatic change. While it one of the world's largest producers of uranium, this wealth has not translated into a significant economic advancement. Niger has high fertility rate, and for this reason it has the highest percentage of young population in Africa, majority of whom lack job opportunities, making the situation worse. Mozambique. GDP per capita $1,649. Mozambique is a country that is blessed with immense natural beauty yet the majority of the people in the country live in abject poverty. The country boasts significant reserves of natural gas, coal, and other resources, but political instability, mismanagement, and frequent natural disasters have stifled its economic progress. Cyclones, floods, and droughts regularly devastate communities, destroying infrastructure, displacing families, and crippling agricultural production, which is the main livelihood for a large portion of the population. These recurring disasters not only cause immediate economic losses, but also undermine long-term development efforts by redirecting resources towards recovery rather than growth. Additionally, conflict in the northern regions, particularly involving arming insurgent groups, has disrupted lives and strained government resources. The violence has displaced thousands, leaving many people without access to services such as healthcare and education. Four, Democratic Republic of Congo. GDP per capita $1,552. One of the most resource-rich countries in the world, the Democratic Republic of Congo is home to vast reserves of cobalt, copper, gold, and diamonds. However, political instability, corruption, and ongoing conflict have halted its economic progress and left the majority of the population in extreme poverty. The exploitation of mineral resources, often controlled by armed groups, has failed violence and perpetrated human rights abuses, displacing millions and destabilizing entire regions. Infrastructure is underdeveloped with limited access to education, healthcare, and basic services, further exacerbating poverty levels. 3. Central African Republic. GDP per capita $1,123. Despite being rich in valuable natural resources such as diamonds and gold, the Central African Republic remains one of the poorest countries in the world. Being a landlocked country has hugely contributed to the deep economic struggles faced by its population. Most people in the country rely on agriculture as their main source of livelihood, yet inadequate infrastructure and poor governance severely hinder productivity and economic growth. Political instability and ongoing armed conflict have plunged the nation into a dire humanitarian crisis. Large areas of the country are controlled by armed groups, making it nearly impossible to deliver essential aid and services to those in need. Millions of people have been displaced while communities struggle to rebuild amidst violence and uncertainty. 2. Burundi. GDP per capita $916. Burundi, a small landlocked nation in East Africa, is the second poorest country in Africa and also the second poorest in the world. Over 80% of Burundians rely on farming to maintain their livelihood, with limited access to modern farming techniques, which hinder productivity. The country also grapples with limited access to education, inadequate healthcare facilities, and poor infrastructure. Political instability, including civil war that lasted from 1993 to 2005, ethnic tensions between Hutu and Tutsi ethnic groups, and civil conflicts have deeply affected the nation, displacing many and stalling economic progress. 1. South Sudan. GDP per capita $455. And finally, topping the list of the top 10 poorest countries in the world is South Sudan. South Sudan, a landlocked country in East Africa and the youngest country in the world, has experienced years of civil war that have left the nation in a state of severe humanitarian crisis marked by widespread displacement and acute food insecurity. Millions of South Sudanese live in temporary shelters of refugee camps, heavy land on international aid for their daily survival. Agriculture, the primary source of livelihood for many, has been disrupted by conflict, leading to chronic shortages and high malnutrition. Despite having significant oil reserves, the country's potential remains largely untapped due to instability and insufficient infrastructure. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe as I bring you more information.